Hello, beautiful, and welcome to Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox from findingfertility.co, and I created this podcast to help get you to start thinking outside of the box and realize that your infertility might have nothing to do with your lady bits. Rooted in functional medicine and personal experience, Finding Fertility is all about looking at the whole body and finding the root cause of your infertility. Finding Fertility does not diagnose, prescribe, or treat any issues of infertility, but what we do is take a holistic approach and improve your diet and your lifestyle to get you steps closer to creating your dream family. Just by being here with me, listening to this podcast, you're already going down the right path to making your dreams come true. Let's do this together. Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox, and I am incredibly honored that you are here today, becoming the conscious mama you were born to be. Today, we have another amazing podcast discovery call. I know they're always all amazing, but I'm just so honored that I can, one, do these, and another that women are willing to come on and share their stories for you guys to relate to as well. Remember, if you want your own personal discovery call, there is the link down in the show notes, and make sure you are on the email list when I call out for new participants for the podcast discovery calls. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode. So why don't you go ahead and tell me about what's been going on about your journey?
Okay. So I've been pregnant twice. Once when I was 19, I did terminate the pregnancy, again at 26, which ended in a miscarriage. I wasn't trying to get pregnant. I was actually on birth control at the time. And so didn't really think much of it because I was sad in the moment, but I didn't really think in terms of, there might be something wrong. I kind of was thinking the opposite, like, how did I get pregnant while I was on birth control? And then I remember my doctor saying, add a second type of birth control or condoms or something, to prevent pregnancy in the future. And then I met my husband, and he had a vasectomy from a previous marriage it had been over 15 years when I met him. They did try to do a reversal. It failed. At that point, I was 35. When I turned 36, I said, well, we kind of have to figure out what we're going to do. Because my doctors were sort of pushing me saying, well, you should probably at least have a plan now. And did 3 IUIs with donor sperm, and none worked. And moved on to a round of IVF. My numbers are really good, by the way. I have my AMH and FSH and what else are you looking at? I just turned 40, is what it was when I was 33.
Yep.
So my numbers haven't really changed. So it's quite high for my age. I think my AMH is still, you guys use different numbers. So 2, yeah. I think it's at 2. Mm-hmm. And FSH is 5. So I went into my first round of IVF with, I think they saw 25 or 26 eggs. And I just was thinking in my head, okay, this is a one-time thing. It's going to be no problem. I expected a whole bunch of embryos. I was thinking that, I was going to have to donate them. And what was I going to do with all these extra embryos? And the problem with the fertility clinic I went to is it was in a different city. And he didn't see me until day 12 of my stims. And unfortunately, he said that he thought that my AMH was over-exaggerated by the lab because of my age. So I was 37 at the time. So he actually gave me quite a low stim protocol, and no, I didn't do any birth control or anything before I think he gave me 4 days worth. So by the time I got to see him, my first 6 or 7 eggs were already cooked, like they were gone. So he tried to get my other ones to catch up, and I think a few of them did. Anyways, long story short, we only got 15 eggs, 10 fertilized, and 6 made somewhat of blasts, and I had 3 day 6 embryos. 2 were very good quality, 1 was lower-ish quality, none implanted.
Okay.
I did not do PGT testing. At the time, we didn't think that it was necessary. I have 2 autoimmune diseases. I have Crohn's disease and I have ankylosing spondylitis. Prior to my first round of IVF, I had been on AIP for over a year, just for myself, trying to avoid being on medication, which did work. And before I went for my egg retrieval, actually, I had done a scope just because I wanted to make sure that there was nothing going on. So I went and they did a scope, and I did I can't remember what it's called, but my doctor does it's like a stool test where they test for inflammation in the gut.
Yeah.
And I was very, very, very low. So he was happy for me to go ahead with the transfer. Because I literally I was like, okay, this has got to work. And none of them did. So I'm about to go into round 2 with a different clinic. It's taken me 2 years to find a clinic that I felt comfortable with. Every doctor I talked to, and I said, I'm just concerned that maybe my autoimmune disease is playing a role. They've all said, no, that's ridiculous. So this is a new clinic led by females only. It's 3.5 hours away from me, but still, I just feel that it's worth the drive going to somebody she's been very open-minded. She's been very receptive. But I can only do this one more time. I remortgaged my house to be able to do this, which sounds insane, but what do you do? And so I just want to make sure that I've done everything that I can to say at the end of the day, I did everything I could without, being so stressed out about being a perfectionist, because that has been a problem for me in the past. So I either go from that or to, oh, it doesn't matter anyways. Like after my last transfer failed, I was like, honestly, obviously none of this matters. Like, I'm not going to meditate. I'm going to eat gluten. I'm going to do all these things. And it doesn't really matter. To be honest with you, at the end of the day, I don't feel a whole lot different physically, but mentally I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. At your new clinic, what have they done any type of testing for your autoimmune issue? Have they tested antibodies to see where you're at?
So I have a rheumatologist and I have a gastroenterologist, and both of them have done quite extensive antibody testing that I'm not 100% specific on what they've tested, but I've always come back negative. In fact, it was really difficult for them to diagnose me in the first place because they did every test known to man since I was probably 17. And I've never showed any signs of anything other than symptomatically. And they finally went in to do a biopsy of the colon, and that's where they found the Crohn's. And then they saw my ankylosing spondylitis in my spine, only because I got uveitis and went blind in one eye. And suddenly it was a medical emergency. And it was actually my ophthalmologist who said, well, what type of autoimmune disease do you have? And at that time I was undiagnosed. I said, I don't have an autoimmune disease. And he said, oh, yes, you do. This is an autoimmune reaction. So he sent me for a bunch of testing. I came back positive for HLA-B27. And then he sent me for x-rays of my spine, which showed nothing. That I'd had like extensive back and neck pain for years. And so when I saw a rheumatologist, she sent me for an MRI, and that's when they saw all the inflammation in my joints and mostly in my neck and my back.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you feel really confident with gut health. Like you feel like there's not a leaky gut issue. Are you
I
still
don't
on?
think there is anymore.
Yes.
I don't think there is anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, but there definitely, for sure, there was.
For a while. Yeah. And are you still doing AIP?
Off and on.
Off and on.
My biggest issue, so, and I'm sure this has a lot to do with it. I have a very stressful job. I run a cancer lab, and it's a very sad job. It's a very hard job. It's a very sad job. And I also have an animal rescue. So I will always put somebody else before myself when it comes time to, I don't really have time to cook for myself right now. So unfortunately, I'm going to eat this. And I would say I do follow the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm meal prepped and ready to go, then I am full AIP. If I'm not, then I am not.
Yeah. What kind of lab did you say you run? Sorry, it kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry. I run a cancer research lab.
Cancer research lab. Okay.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like sorry, yeah. What does that mean, the cancer? Are you working with patients or just?
I'm working with cancer patients. So they're in trials. So we're either doing pharmaceutical sponsored trials or we're doing like benchmark trials to try to find biomarkers and DNA and genetic markers that might that we just haven't discovered yet, that we might be able to pinpoint and find out if this contributes to cancer and what kind, and what does it mean for the future of cancer, and can we turn these genes off? So I'm not doing that. Basically, I'm seeing the patients.
I recently did like a next level with my Psych-K, which is a subconscious reprogramming, and there was a retired doctor there, and her dream was to cure cancer when she got into her practice. She realized that she was self-sacrificing herself and her life to do something for the greater good.
For sure.
She's retired because she realized that the self-sacrifice wasn't good for her.
Yes, for sure.
So when it comes, this is what a lot of people hit a wall with. You've done all the physical things right. It's the mental, emotional stress levels that is keeping you stuck.
Yeah.
Right. So my body is flaring up. So that means that's the major focus for you right now. And it's not that your diet and all the physical things that you are doing aren't working. They are. They're probably keeping you able to keep going like going.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If you didn't have that regime in there, you couldn't, I don't think you could be doing what you're doing right now. And you probably wouldn't have seen any real success with IVF, getting to that stage with your 2 diagnosed autoimmune issues.
Right.
So the hard question is, what are you willing to stop doing for others and start doing for yourself to potentially have the success that you want, the family that you want?
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
And that's where you're at right now. And there's the only right answer is the right answer you come up for yourself. Mm-hmm. What intuitively feels good to you.
Right.
When's your next IVF?
Supposedly next month.
Okay.
I'm so I've just been really, it should have been 2 months ago. But
so you're still on
a timeline that you've made up?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was their timeline.
Okay.
That
Someone made it up, right?
Somebody made it up, yes. But I just, and I've listened to you enough times, and I'm like, well, and at first I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this after 40. Like, this is crazy. And, I have to have this baby before I turn 40. And now I'm like, well, I already turned 40. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's made up. It's all made up. It's literally made up, right?
I do know that. And I talked myself into that too. But then when it actually comes down to it, like, I literally had a panic attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, really,
I mean,
literally.
it's a real thing. But when you are programmed, when you are running these loops of being type A, overachieving, doing, I have to have this done before this timeline that someone made up, and it doesn't happen, you will have a panic attack. That's just natural. Yeah. That's your body's natural response to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it wrong or right. It's just what it is.
Right.
And now, financially, if this is the last go, and you choose to move forward with it, is it really going to be a dramatic difference between next month and 6 months?
I hope not. Well,
right? The body just
maybe.
Yeah. The body just doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
All these like crazy fertility cliffs it's not true. It's not true. If it was true, no one over 40 would get pregnant. Yeah. Like, that's just, if what they believe and what they're telling us, you would see no one, especially over the age of 45.
Yeah. I think my grandma had her last baby at 46.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that was normal, right? They just kept having babies until they didn't.
Yeah. Until they hit menopause. They just didn't overthink it.
Yeah.
Did a lot of women have babies later in life? No, because I think back in the days, you didn't live a really long time. So they wanted to start families sooner, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, you are technically have more eggs younger in life.
Yeah.
But it's all down to the cellular health. And most of our grandparents and our great-grandparents didn't have to overthink it. The chemicals and the bad food and the stress levels just wasn't a huge issue. It was becoming an issue, and they passed it down unknowingly. But for you, it is, you're in a position where you still have time on your side. You're not 45, you're not 50. Those are two different conversations. Okay. You're 40. You have several years. You have, and not that I think AMH scores and FAs, I think that's all made up too, because scientists and doctors need reference points, right?
For sure.
To make diagnosis and move forward. Once again, they've just taken something that's tangible, put it in a box and go, that's the standard right there. And everyone has to follow it once again. Yeah. But even saying that, your scores are good. It's not right. Like, they're still good. So the race to a finish line and to know what your fate might be is almost hindering you to getting to your ultimate goal.
Right. No, I agree with that for sure.
So it's really getting settled into your body and looking back now and rearranging those loops and those patterns for you. How can you get out of this anxiety mode, out of this how can we draw lines and put up healthy boundaries right now in your life, which could be a 6-month period of time or a 2-year period of time, right? Like, how much time am I going to give myself to do what I want to do, which is become a mother?
Okay.
And it's kind of reverse engineering all the BS that we got brought up. I mean, that's just, you are programmed, you are working off a program of your childhood and your adolescence, and you just keep repeating the pattern, go, 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 go. And unfortunately, when it does come to women, because of like modern day feminism, we can have it all, we can do it all. The truth of the matter is, no, you can't. Your body can't do it all. It cannot work a 40-hour work week in a high intense pressure cooker place, then run an animal rescue center, then have the stress of infertility, and then travel 3.5 hours to clinics, and then we need money, and then we're in the financial stress of it all. Like, your body is going to be like, absolutely not. I am in survival mode.
For sure.
And I don't necessarily, it's hard in these occasions when you aren't working with a loaded gun, meaning the sperm, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to say, do you actually really have fertility issues? Because 3 rounds of IVF and 1 failed, or sorry, 3 IUIs, 1 failed IVF does not equal fertility issues, right? It just didn't work.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't dictate your future. So it's really hard in these situations of like looking at it as a fertility journey, right?
Yes.
And to be honest, in my life and my experience looking back, and now the coaching that I do, this isn't really about a fertility journey. Fertility is just almost like a symptom of all the BS that we were dealing with in our life. And it's just a way that the universe or God has been like, okay, let's wake up. Let's rearrange the things that aren't really working for us. And I'm going to give you a difficult challenge to help you do that.
Right.
Because let's just be fair, like, we're not going to do it without it. We'll just keep going.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, and so you don't have to share anything that you don't want to, but this is part of the job, is of like digging into it. Why do you feel that you are type A, that you're always on the go, that you're a high achiever? Can you stem that back to anything in your childhood, in your life?
Yeah, I had 2 alcoholic parents growing up. They were not abusive to me. They were abusive to each other. I was the oldest sibling. I had a little sister who I protected and raised. It was a very uncertain household. I never knew if someone was coming home or if they weren't coming home. And yeah, that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
I also, my mom grew up in a very, very strict household with 7 brothers and sisters. My grandfather was in the Air Force, so he had a lot of rules. I have a very athletic and high achieving family. Like all of my cousins and everybody has been like that. Everyone has either played professional sports or become somebody quite big. So there was always this expectation that that's just, what you did. If you're going to do something, you better be the best at it. That's where that comes from. I had a very serious eating disorder between the ages of 17 to 20.
Yep.
I struggled with exercise bulimia and anorexia. I was at one point the fastest female under 19, I think, in North America. Which I used as an excuse for being thin.
Yeah.
I don't actually think I liked running, to be honest with you. But it was a really easy way for me to control exactly what happened. Something, right? To control something. So what I ate, what I did as exercise, and what I looked like, I could control that because I could not control anything else. Yeah. I then had a very horses. It's a horse rescue that we have. I grew up riding horses and then rode professionally for a long time. And it was a horse actually that basically saved my life through all of that and helped overcome my eating disorder. I'd been to therapists for years, and just CBT is like, okay, great, I have the tools, but we're not getting to the root of the problem, right?
Yeah.
And then unfortunately I lost her in a horrible accident. And as soon as that happened, I spiraled right back to square one again. Like, I think the very next day I was, suddenly chopping my food up into tiny pieces and counting calories. And I hadn't done that in years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my trauma response.
Yeah.
And that is definitely still with me. I've done some EMDR around it, but to be honest with you, I don't know that I've ever made it through a full session. It's still very traumatic for me.
Okay.
And now I currently have 6 horses. A couple of them are going through some health challenges. And as soon as something like that happens, I get that, here we go again. And it's hard, right? Like, if you have pets, losing pets is hard. Losing anybody is hard, but pets don't live that long, unfortunately. And so you have to go through that grief more often than you do with people. Well, usually. So yeah, I do have a therapist that I work through some stuff with, but again, it's a very deep, deep wound for me. I definitely lost a piece of myself that day for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think having this animal rescue, it's obviously supportive?
Yeah.
But do you find it hard as well?
Oh, it's hard. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. So we don't take in animals anymore. We're like, the number that we have is the number that we have. But it's very hard. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like physically, obviously, but emotionally?
Yes. Yes, it is for sure.
If you were honest with yourself, what outweighs the other? The good? I don't want to say good or bad, but obviously you get a tremendous amount of amazingness from it.
For sure.
But I can feel that there's a lot of heaviness with it as well. And right now in your life, where's that balance?
Yeah. There's fear over loss is what there is. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that ties into everything, right? Because I remember that last embryo, I was like, it was just one more. And I feel like every time there's a loss, whether it's embryo or an animal or whatever it is, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it just stacks on.
Yeah.
In your therapy, do you have modalities to release that emotion?
Not really. Like, they all say that they do, but then you just go in there. I just end up sitting there talking.
Just talking. Yeah. Yeah.
Or something strange will come up when I'm doing EMDR and I'm like, oh, that's what?
Yeah. EMDR, is that the I one?
Yeah, she uses a buzzer. Like, I use 2 buzzers. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The way the subconscious mind works and the way we store these traumas is all energetic, right? Emotions are energy, right? So if you think about anger, you feel anger, right? Like, you can feel the redness, you can feel the hotness bubble up, and everyone has maybe a different area in their body that they actually feel it. When we don't know how to release the emotion, it just like stacks up and stacks up and stacks up. So for you, there's, some obvious childhood stuff as well, being the caretaker, having all this immense pressure on you, against cousins and all that kind of stuff, perfection. It just is a recipe for a modality of control, because that's what eating disorders are. That's what all great addictions are, right? They are just a form of control because you feel out of control. Would you, I might have to pause the recording. Would you be up to do a Psych-K session right now?
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pause this because I can't record. Okay. Talk me through how you feel right now.
like a huge weight was lifted almost. Like when I first started, there was this horrible lump in my throat, like that I get when I'm about to cry, and then this tightness in my chest, and then it kind of just went away, which I did not expect. I have to say, I was like, okay, well, here for 20 minutes, and I'm gonna say it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's because when I have done EMDR with this, it gets worse to the point where she has to take me out.
Yeah. I'm not an expert in those modalities, so I can't say why that might be. And I'm not saying Psych-K is the right answer for everyone, but my understanding of Psych-K is it's so simple that it's overlooked. And all you're doing, and you're doing it. I only do a small portion by helping you find the quickest way to get there because you're in a whole brain state.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all you. You're taking that energy and you're basically alchemizing it and you're releasing it. You're just letting it go.
Wow.
And it's that simple. You are in connection when you're in a whole brain state to your higher self and whatever you call God, universe, spirit, divine, and you're just in alignment. And that's just all it is. So I really hope this really helps because I felt very called to heal that for you because I could feel it for you that was a huge block in a lot of areas of your life. Yeah. And this is what you want to be focusing on yourself right now. I'm not saying don't do the IVF in a month, but what I would suggest is know that IVF will be there for you. You know, it's the way you have to get pregnant. You know, it's the way your journey is. Your eggs are not going to change in a negative way dramatically hell over the next 3 years of your life. And if you can surrender to the timeline and think, God, I had to do it. I was supposed to have 2 kids by 30, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, when I gave birth at 37, it did not matter. It just didn't. My age didn't matter. And to be honest, I'm glad that I took the time to sort the things that I needed to sort out because it made motherhood so much easier.
Yeah.
With your background, if you take the time to heal these, emotional distressors that put you at a dis-ease, the likelihood of you passing this down, because basically what our parents do, they just come with the luggage, they just pass it on to us, most of them unknowingly. And, we have to give them grace. They were in a different time. We're living in a time that we can gain this knowledge quite quickly and do that for ourselves, but we have to take the time to do it so we can be the generational breakers. Right. And I do feel for a lot of women that are doing all the physical things right, still not seeing the success they want, there is a portion of you that does need to change these things because there's a fear inside of you that you're going to do the same to your child and you don't want to. Yeah, so you put up a block, and that just blocks you. It's a subconscious thing that is blocking you. You don't really want it to succeed because you're going to repeat the cycle, and that's what you're subconsciously thinking. Consciously, of course, you want it to succeed. Of course, you're doing all these crazy things, remortgaging your house and the diet and this and that, So consciously, you have all this information, but it's your subconscious that is driving the thing. So for you, I would work on taking the time, keep healing what you need to be healed, and then keep digging. It's a layered thing, right? So every modality out there, there's no quick fix. It's a very layered process. Obviously, you saw Psych-K can get you there a lot quicker than most modalities. And it's it's just so beneficial to the rest of your life, because then you will be able to put up boundaries and not be type A. Do the job you love if you still love to be in that cancer research lab, but show up with an open heart and show up in a way that you can really serve, instead of showing up just dragging your feet, exhausted, sad, all these things. We just keep pushing ourselves through life, and we should be enjoying it. Being able, I think, for you to, in a family that is so competitive and high achieving and has these high standards, being okay with not impressing people.
Yeah.
Like, what has it got you? What is it ever going to get you?
Yeah.
If you're not in love with yourself and you're not living your life for yourself, then what's the point of living? But I think that you are obviously very open. You're very honest. You know what is behind some of these things. And so the knowledge is always the first step. It's when you're able to look at yourself and go, okay, there's time there. It's time to change things.
Right.
And then the next action step is actually doing it, showing up for yourself. I was on a call the other day about a woman who needed to set boundaries with her mother on the phone. And I said, well, have you told your mom this? Yeah, I've told her, but then she will be good for 2 or 3 days and then she'll continue on. I said, well, why do you take the phone call? Just don't answer the phone. So you have to set the boundaries. That person's never going to change.
Yeah.
And they might change after you change, but if you keep letting them call you, you answer the phone, then you sit on the phone with them for 20 minutes, hear their BS, it's actually you still continuing that cycle.
Yeah.
So, sure. Yeah. How does that feel?
Really good. And I can't thank you enough for doing that for me.
Yeah. God, my pleasure. Easily.
And also just the timeline thing, right? Because it's different when somebody is saying it to you.
Yeah. Yeah,
it
absolutely.
It feels different, right? It feels different.
Yeah. It's made up. It's all literally all made up. And you'll see when you get to where you want to be, you'll understand more of why things happened the way they did. When you're in the thick of it, it's hard. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you get to choose the meanings of life, right? It's all choices. How do you choose to feel about those situations? So if you want to choose a different, you can. And then it's just having the tools behind you to subconsciously do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Just for everyone listening, I tell you how to get into a whole brain state in my PDF, the 6 steps to boost your embryos. This is all in the energetics. Everyone can do this for themselves. Obviously, as a Psych-K facilitator, I'm just able to get you there a little quicker. So it's not I don't have a special power. This is not, I'm not an amazing intuitive person. A little bit, I'll give myself a little bit, but this is not a modality. You can get trained in it yourself quite quickly. But just everyone to know, just put yourself in a whole brain state and sit with that emotion and release it. Let it be there, because we keep stuffing it down. We use the eating disorders or the alcohol or the food, whatever the modalities is, to keep shoving our emotions down. We're told not to cry. We're told not to express it. When we were off of the recording, you said, one of your therapists said you made something up, and it's really just sitting there, being with yourself, allowing it to alchemize and releasing it and letting it go. And I know it sounds super simple and it's harder when you first start, but the more you keep doing it, the more you peel back those layers, you're actually looking around okay, what else can I do? What can I switch? It gets quite exciting because you start living your authentic life and you feel happy and fulfilled again. which I know during my fertility struggles, there was dark days, you know. So yeah, I'm really happy for you. I'm really excited for you because you see your inner power. You know that you can do this for yourself. Was there any other questions that you had? I know I feel like I've left you a little bit speechless, but
no, I just thank you for setting this safe space, because I know it's something that you can do on your own, but if you don't feel like, if somebody hasn't set that safe space for you, especially with a big trauma, I thank you for doing that, because that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Stick with your diet. It's working. I know it's frustrating at times, but it is very important, especially when I feel in this journey, what I'm seeing is that it's not, I don't want to talk about levels, but like as you're walking down this road, the more you walk down, the easier it is to, alchemize these things. So when you're at the beginning of an autoimmune issue and you're still dealing with a lot of emotional and mental and energetic factors, working on the physical body is the easier task because it's tangible and it's not scary. So you've done a lot of the hard work, and now it's just time to open Pandora's box and really get to the root cause of what caused those issues in the first place. The little you talked about your childhood, it does not surprise me that you had 2 full-blown autoimmune issues. They are simultaneously energetic and physical. And a lot of people don't realize all these kind of physical issues that we have. Even though the research and the physical things, even medication at times are so important, so many people can radically change their lives when they get to the energetic level of why it's there in the first place, or why it got passed down. If it is a genetic factor, why does it run in your family? And you can be this cycle breaker. For me, my big things when I learned about epigenetics, knowing that I have 2 boys now, and my husband's side of the family, his father, his brother, and his grandfather all had prostate cancer. So my husband will deal with it at some point of his life, and I'm just hoping that we have done what we can do to minimize the risk of them ever developing it, or having issues with it later in life. It's supposed to be an old man's problem, and my brother-in-law is not even 50, and he found it. So
that's our main, I work in urological cancer. So it is, it's very common in younger men, and it's like, people don't think that, but it actually is. And it's usually genetic in that, which unfortunately.
Yeah. But even though you have something genetically, it's your environment that expresses it. And your environment is not only your diet and your supplements and your environmental toxins and all that, it's your energetics. If you are sitting like with this is why I felt like I needed to move this for you, or help you move it for yourself, is because you are energetically carrying that on, and that is causing disease for you. Your body's at dis-ease. So I'm excited for you, my friend. You're gonna be able to, really start looking into this side of your journey, hyper focus on that, make empowered decisions about when you use treatment, when you're ready, not someone else's timeline. Cool.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for showing up and sharing your story on the podcast as well. Pleasure to meet you. I'll send you an email with a few more resources for you to dive into, and how you can work with me if you want to continue working with me in the future. I'm just really grateful and proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the Finding Fertility podcast. If you're loving this podcast, please leave us a rating and review, and let us know how this podcast is supporting you to get steps closer to creating your dream family. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next Friday for another episode of the Finding Fertility podcast.